The story begins in a high school classroom where two boys sit in the back. The one on the second last seat is visibly excited, eagerly anticipating the arrival of the transfer student. In contrast, the boy sitting behind him appears uninterested in the conversation and remains unresponsive. The excited lad comments on how calm and collected his friend seems, even in such a situation. The last seater acknowledges the remark with a nod, maintaining his composure. The teacher, standing at the front of the room, commands the students to settle down and take their seats. The class obediently falls silent, their attention focused on her. She addresses them with news about the transfer student, mentioning that she will be joining their class. With a gesture, the teacher invites the new girl into the room. As she steps inside, the entire class is taken aback by her appearance. She introduces herself as Kyoko Kirishima, announcing that she has transferred to Shizukidai High School. While the rest of the class is captivated by her charm, the boy in the last seat is paralyzed with fear. His eyes fixate on a terrifying ghostly figure hovering behind Kyoko. The ghost has long hair and a glaring eye that sends chills down his spine. He tries to process the situation, overwhelmed by the realization that no one else seems to see the entity. The teacher instructs Kyoko Kirishima to take the empty seat at the back of the classroom. She complies, walking toward the seat next to him. As she approaches, the boy's friend leans over, calling him Nozomi and teasing him about how lucky he is to have Kirishima sitting beside him. Distracted by the ghostly presence, Nozomi quietly repeats the words. Misreading his reaction, his friend asks if Kyoko isn't to his liking. He tries to respond but can't find the words. Kirishima arrives at her seat and greets Nozomi warmly before sitting down. The boy in front introduces himself as Yoroshiku, but Nozomi remains frozen in fear, his thoughts consumed by the eerie creature still looming behind her. He wonders why no one else can see the ghost and whether Kirishima herself is aware of its presence. As Kirishima begins to settle in, the ghost climbs onto her shoulders, perching with its legs draped across her. Nozomi watches in horror as the ghost teases and torments her, its actions entirely unnoticed by anyone else. He questions whether the creature is a ghost or merely a hallucination. When the ghost's eyes suddenly meet his, he panics and quickly hides his face behind a book, hoping to avoid further interaction. He resolves to ignore the ghost entirely, convincing himself that feigning indifference will keep him safe. The ghost, however, seems determined to provoke Nozomi. It moves closer to him, hovering ominously before returning to Kirishima. Despite his growing fear, he steels himself, deciding to focus on his studies and ignore the supernatural presence. Yet his resolve falters when he hears Kirishima making distressed noises. Glancing sideways, he sees the ghost squeezing Kirishima's chest, causing her discomfort. Conflicted, he questions whether he should intervene but ultimately remains silent, uncertain of what to do. When Kirishima insists she is fine despite her discomfort, Nozomi can only nod in forced agreement, his thoughts racing. The ghost then shifts its attention to him, placing its hands on his shoulders. Sweat beads on his forehead as he tries to maintain a facade of composure. Finally, the school day ends and Kirishima leaves with her classmates, the ghost trailing behind her. Nozomi watches her go, feeling a mix of relief and dread. He resolves to avoid her and the ghost as much as possible. As he retrieves his shoes from the locker, he notices Kirishima standing alone nearby. Assuming she is waiting for someone, he tries to slip away unnoticed, but she calls out to him. She expresses her gratitude for his earlier concern, mentioning how much it helped her feel at ease. He remains silent, his mind racing with thoughts about the ghost's influence. Kirishima introduces herself formally and asks for his name. Hesitant, he replies that his name is Tori Nozomi. Unexpectedly, she asks if he would like to be her friend, extending her hand for a handshake. Nozomi hesitates, questioning why she would single him out, but the ghost forces him to shake her hand before he can refuse. She beams with happiness at his reluctant gesture, while he hides his fear behind a strained smile, silently cursing his predicament. The next day, all the students are present in class, attending their lecture. The teacher unexpectedly calls on Kirishima to read from the book. She stands confidently and begins reading aloud, her voice steady and clear. Nozomi observes her, thinking about how diligent and friendly she is. He recalls their meeting the previous day, recalling how approachable and kind she was. Despite his usual reserved nature, she had engaged him in conversation without hesitation, which he found both surprising and endearing. As Kirishima finishes reading and takes her seat, the teacher expresses gratitude for her contribution. Nozomi's gaze shifts, and he once again notices the ghost lingering nearby. The moment passes quickly, and soon it is recess time. Tanioka, the boy who sits in front of Nozomi, invites him to join him for lunch. Despite his quiet demeanor, Nozomi and Tanioka-kun have formed a casual friendship, though Tanioka's energetic personality contrasts sharply with his reserved nature. Tanioka suggests inviting Toko-chan to explore the school cafeteria and have lunch together. Kirishima politely declines, explaining that she has brought her lunch and likes to eat in a peaceful spot. However, Tanioka persists, suggesting they eat on the school rooftop, which is open to everyone. After much persuasion, she reluctantly agrees, though Nozomi silently empathizes with her hesitation. They head to the rooftop after Tanioka grabs some bread from the school store. Kirishima sets down her lunchbox, revealing an impressive spread of food that surprises both boys. Nozomi, curious, asks if she plans to eat all of it herself. She laughs awkwardly and admits she is a heavy eater. Tanioka reassures her that a good appetite is a sign of health, and Nozomi agrees, though he silently recalls noticing her unease about this before. Kirishima prays before eating and begins her meal. As she eats, Nozomi notices the ghost reappearing and seemingly draining energy from her. Despite her efforts to enjoy the meal, she mentions feeling as though the food isn't satisfying her, which aligns with what Nozomi suspects about the ghost's influence. Tanioka enthusiastically compliments her eating habits, while Kirishima expresses mild embarrassment about her appetite, adding that it feels strange that she never seems to gain weight. Tanioka assures her there is nothing to be ashamed of, calling it pleasant to see. Suddenly, Nozomi interrupts, claiming there is a bee on her head. He waves his hands above her, pretending to shoo it away, but his real goal is to disrupt the ghost draining. Kirishima thanks him, and Tanioka praises his quick action. The ghost eventually retreats, leaving Kirishima looking more at ease. After lunch, Kirishima remarks on how full she feels. This confirms Nozomi's suspicion that the ghost's interference was to blame. Tanioka theorizes that eating together might have helped, and Kirishima agrees, feeling happier and less burdened. Nozomi silently disagrees, knowing the spirit is the true cause. He observes the ghost looming near him, hands on his head, before noticing Kirishima offering her bento to him. She insists he try some of her food despite his hesitation. As she moves to feed him, the ghost seems to cheer him on, which unnerves him. Just as he's about to take a bite, Tanioka eats the piece instead, apologizing playfully. Kirishima brushes it off, offering another piece to Nozomi, who finally tastes it and praises her cooking. Kirishima admits she had expected to eat alone until graduation and expresses surprise at how quickly she has made friends after transferring. Nozomi, touched by her vulnerability, politely asks if they can have lunch together again. She hesitates briefly before agreeing. Meanwhile, Tanioka continues eating, oblivious to the ghost now drawing energy from him. Kirishima comments on his large appetite, while Nozomi silently hopes he keeps eating to distract the ghost. As the lunch period ends, he reflects on the unusual events and the bonds forming between them. Nozomi sits in the library, immersed in his work, surrounded by the calm he cherishes. The distant shouts of athletes and the echo of the brass band from the music club blend into a soothing backdrop. He finds comfort in the solitude, enjoying the rare quiet with only the deputy librarian nearby. To him, the library is a sanctuary, a personal kingdom where he can work undisturbed, free to let his thoughts wander. However, his peaceful moment is suddenly interrupted when he notices something unusual under the table. His heart races as he spots a ghostly figure. Panic sets in, and he screams, the sound echoing in the quiet library. The deputy librarian, hearing the disturbance, immediately orders him to be quiet. Nozomi, still frightened, looks back at the ghostly figure, attempting to understand why it is there. At that moment, he hears a familiar voice calling his name. He turns, startled, to find Kirishima standing nearby. Her presence helps calm his nerves, but the shock of seeing the ghost still lingers. Kirishima, sensing his distress, asks if everything is okay, but Nozomi, still shocked, mumbles something incomprehensible. Kirishima, unsure of what he said, leans closer and asks for clarification. Nozomi tries to brush off his fear, pretending that he had merely sensed her arrival, though his face betrays his unease. Kirishima, curious, asks if he is studying. Nozomi responds affirmatively, and in turn, questions her about her reason for being in the library. Kirishima explains that she's just exploring, as the library is vast and interesting. She then politely asks if she can sit with him. Nozomi, still feeling on edge but not wanting to seem rude, agrees without hesitation. Despite his initial discomfort, Nozomi quickly grows accustomed to Kirishima's presence. They settle into a natural rhythm, the silence between them calm and unforced. As they study, Nozomi's thoughts drift. Watching Kirishima, absorbed in her work, he quietly admires her beauty in the stillness before shaking off the thought and refocusing on his studies. Kirishima, unaware of his internal musings, remarks on the serenity of the space, noting how quiet and peaceful it is. Nozomi agrees with her, expressing that this place is indeed his favorite. Kirishima mentions that she will visit the library more often. His face reveals his surprise, and she inquires if he's uncomfortable with the idea. Nozomi quickly denies it. In his mind, though, Nozomi begins to feel conflicted. The library had always been his retreat, and now that it might become a place for both of them to frequent, he feels a sense of vulnerability. The thought that he's no longer alone in this peaceful haven creates a strange tension within him. He can't help but think of how different it will be with someone else occupying the same space. Yet as his thoughts continue to race, he notices a presence, the ghostly figure from earlier, now lurking in the shadows. He tries to shake off the unsettling feeling, telling himself to focus on his work. Despite his attempts to concentrate, the presence of the spirit continues to linger, and Nozomi feels its eerie presence in the corner of his eye. The stillness of the library is broken by the sudden buzz of Nozomi's phone, making him jump. Kirishima looks up, concerned, and he quickly waves it off, saying it's just a text from his sister, though it's unusual for her to message him. She smirks a little at how startled he is, but as he checks the text, a sense of unease creeps in. It just states "say something," but there's no clear sender. He assumes it's from his sister, but the uncertainty leaves him uneasy. As he contemplates the message, the spirit continues to move around them, its presence growing more ominous. Suddenly, his phone vibrates again, and this time, the message includes the word "cursed." Nozomi's heart skips a beat as he realizes the message is unlike anything he's ever received. He wonders if the spirit is somehow involved in this strange occurrence, though he can't be sure. In a state of confusion and fear, Nozomi looks at his phone once more, and this time, he receives a picture of Kirishima in a bikini. Stunned by the inappropriate image, he shouts, catching Kirishima's concerned gaze. The deputy librarian, annoyed by the outburst, quickly reminds them to keep quiet. Kirishima, still unsure of what's happening, asks if he wants to leave. He reassures her that he's fine, claiming that it's just a text from his sister, though his words do little to calm his nerves. As Nozomi fumbles with his phone, attempting to silence it, he notices the spirit laughing at him, further unsettling him. Kirishima, sensing his discomfort, remarks that he seems close to his sister. Nozomi, confused by her observation, stumbles over his words, not knowing how to respond. He mutters that his sister is not bad, though the conversation only adds to his unease. The tension grows as Kirishima asks politely if they can exchange Pine IDs. Nozomi agrees, though he feels a mixture of excitement and discomfort at the thought. After exchanging their IDs, he prepares to put his phone away, but it rings once more. This time, when he looks at the screen, he is met with another shocking image: Kirishima bathing. His heart races, and he drops his phone in disbelief. Kirishima, now alarmed, yells, demanding to know what's happening, while the deputy librarian sternly tells them to stay quiet. Though he adds Kirishima to his contact list, the day's strange events leave him uneasy and on edge, unsure what to make of it all. Nozomi lies on his bed in the quiet evening, his hands occupied with knitting as his thoughts drift toward Kirishima. He recalls exchanging contact information with her and considers sending her a message, yet he hesitates, feeling he has nothing significant to say. His phone suddenly vibrates, drawing his attention. He wonders if the message could be from Kirishima. His curiosity is piqued when she sends a simple "good evening" sticker. He replies with a polite "good evening," but instantly regrets not using a sticker himself. Despite this small slip, their conversation flows easily, drawing him in and making him forget about the knitting in his hands. As they chat, she asks if he could show her a nearby bookstore where she hopes to find a math reference book. Nozomi feels a mix of confusion and uncertainty, unsure if she wants directions or his company. Her playful request stickers make her intent clear, and she mentions waiting for him at the school gate after class, leaving him no room to refuse. As their chat ends, Nozomi's mind drifts to the outing, momentarily mistaking it for a date. Quickly shaking off the notion, he reminds himself that he is merely helping her shop. The next day, as school ends, they walk together toward the bookstore. Kirishima mentions she is unfamiliar with the area since she is new and apologizes for inconveniencing him. Nozomi assures her it is fine, though he quietly marvels at the fact that they are walking together. As they proceed, he senses an unusual presence following them. Trying to dismiss the oddity, he reassures himself that this is just a casual outing to a bookstore. Kirishima remarks on her fondness for bookstores, expressing that it is not only the books, but also the comforting atmosphere she enjoys. Nozomi shares his own interest in books, though he remains distracted by the mysterious presence. They soon arrive at Kamiki Bookstore, and Kirishima marvels at its size. Entering together, Nozomi notices something peculiar. The strange presence seems to leave Kirishima the moment they step inside. Kirishima stretches, exclaiming her love for bookstores, and Nozomi wonders if the relief she displays is due to escaping the haunting presence or merely her genuine appreciation for bookstores. Despite his concern, he decides not to dwell on it. Kirishima suggests exploring the store before searching for her reference book, and Nozomi agrees. Wandering through the aisles, he spots a book titled Hobby Time, which this month features knitting. Tempted to buy it, he decides to return for it later since he is with Kirishima. His attention shifts to a dark-colored book on a nearby shelf. Pulling it out, he notices it is titled Rites of Exorcism. Intrigued by its ominous theme, he considers its potential usefulness. However, Kirishima interrupts his thoughts, asking if the book is of interest to him. Embarrassed, he fumbles for an excuse, claiming it is for his younger sister. Kirishima agrees, remarking that such interests are common at a certain age, and he silently berates himself for using his sister as an excuse once again. They eventually find the mathematics reference section. Kirishima notes the variety of books and asks Nozomi which one he uses. Before he can answer, a loud noise echoes through the store, startling him. Kirishima, unaware of the source, asks what is happening. He quickly dismisses her concern, excusing himself under the pretext of needing to use the restroom. Away from her, Nozomi searches for the source of the noise and finds the spirit engrossed in a book. Peering closer, he realizes the spirit is reading a shoujo manga, its story centered on romantic confession. The spirit reacts with loud laughter and excitement, making Nozomi suspect it enjoys such lighthearted tales. Relieved that the spirit seems harmless and distracted, he returns to Kirishima. Upon his return, he notices something unsettling. Behind Kirishima, a man with glasses is attempting to take an inappropriate photograph from under her skirt. Frozen in shock and disbelief, Nozomi's mind races as he processes the situation, unsure of how to react. Nozomi stands nearby, observing the man who seems to be taking covert photos of Kirishima. The suspicion feels too real to be a mere figment of his imagination. Torn between his desire to intervene and his uncertainty about how to approach the situation, a whirlwind of thoughts floods his mind. He considers that moving closer might deter the man, but doubts linger. Just then, the faint rustling of a spirit reading a book catches his attention. Frustration builds as he wonders why the spirit remains so detached during such a critical moment. He quickly reminds himself not to rely on her and resolves to act on his own. Summoning his courage, he takes a deep breath and loudly calls out the man, accusing him of taking inappropriate photos. The man, visibly startled, denies the claim and feigns ignorance. Kirishima, now frightened, moves closer to Nozomi. Reiterating his accusation, Nozomi insists the man is using his phone to take pictures. The man denies it again and turns to leave, but when Nozomi tries to grab his arm, the man shoves him away. He falls to the ground, and a small toy tumbles from his pocket. Seizing the moment, the man flees the scene. Kirishima kneels beside Nozomi, her gratitude evident as she clutches his shirt. Nozomi, however, apologizes, feeling that his actions were insufficient. She reassures him, saying his effort meant everything to her. While he feels guilty for scaring her and allowing the man to escape, she expresses her relief and gratitude, insisting he has done enough. They exchange words of concern, ensuring the other is unharmed. He promises to inform the store clerk about the incident. Unbeknownst to them, the spirit continues to observe silently from the book rack. Meanwhile, the man retreats to a restroom, his mind racing with regret and anger. Fearing that security cameras might have captured his actions, he resolves never to return to the bookstore. Despair turns to bitterness as he curses Nozomi, wishing him harm. Suddenly, the restroom lights flicker ominously. A message appears on his phone, asking for his location. Confused and unnerved, he looks around only to see the eerie feet of the spirit approaching. Another message follows, ominously stating that she has found him. Terror grips him as he senses a presence behind him. He screams as the spirit attacks, his phone slipping from his grasp and shattering on the floor. Outside the bookstore, Nozomi and Kirishima discuss the incident, relieved to see police officers arriving. He mentions that the security cameras likely captured the man, ensuring he will be caught soon. Kirishima apologizes for involving him in the ordeal, but he dismisses her apology, insisting the blame lies solely with the man. Her heartfelt thanks bring a smile to his face, though he remains modest, believing he did little to help. As they leave, he notices the spirit nearby and silently questions her absence during the confrontation. Suddenly, his phone vibrates with multiple notifications. Kirishima points it out, and Nozomi retrieves his phone from his bag. To his shock, the screen displays a disturbing image of the man, clearly indicating something has happened to him. In his mind, Nozomi demands answers from the spirit, who now appears to be drawing energy from Kirishima. Kirishima, unaware of the spirit's presence, complains of hunger. Nozomi attributes her sudden exhaustion to the spirit's actions, but suggests they grab a meal before heading home. Her excitement at the idea lifts his spirits as he notes how cheerful she looks. They find a cozy place to eat, and as they sit across from each other, Nozomi observes Kirishima's happiness. Her bright demeanor contrasts sharply with the day's earlier chaos, leaving him with a mix of relief and lingering unease about the spirit's role in everything that transpired. Nozomi receives a text from Kirishima about the recent incident at the bookstore. She informs him that the culprit has been apprehended. The arrest came after the police received a report about a man lying unconscious in a restroom. Upon investigation, they identified him as the same individual caught on the store's surveillance cameras. The man's phone is later found to contain several spy videos, including one of Kirishima, but fortunately, there appears to be no evidence of any leaks. The next day, during lunch, Nozomi and Kirishima sit together. Tanioka interrupts to ask about the due date for their English assignment. While they discuss this, Nozomi notices that Kirishima seems upset. He assumes her mood is linked to the incident at the bookstore. Later, as they study in the library, her distressed demeanor continues to trouble him. Concerned, he asks if she is okay. She smiles in response and assures him she is fine, but her expression contradicts her words. Her behavior prompts Nozomi to wonder if the bookstore incident is still weighing on her mind. Suddenly, Kirishima mentions she has something to tell him. Intrigued, Nozomi gives her his full attention. She then reveals a small stuffed toy, which she says she found after he was pushed during the bookstore incident. Nozomi recalls the moment and feels slightly embarrassed. She apologizes for not returning it earlier, but he thanks her and reflects on how it feels awkward to admit he knits his own stuffed animals. When she asks if it is handmade, he quickly fabricates a story, claiming it is a gift from his sister. Kirishima, however, is skeptical, noting that the craftsmanship seems unusual for something his sister might make. The situation becomes more uncomfortable for Nozomi as he senses an overwhelming spiritual presence. The ghost, always lingering nearby, appears to be scrutinizing his interaction with Kirishima. Feeling pressured, he hesitantly maintains his story, but eventually decides to confess the truth. He admits that the stuffed toy was not a gift from his sister, and that he had made it himself. Embarrassed, he explains that he hesitated to tell her because he thought it might seem strange for a high school boy to knit. Kirishima surprises him by expressing admiration for his talent. She insists that there is nothing unusual about it and praises the toy's intricate design. Their conversation takes a lively turn when she playfully mocks him, speculating that the toy might have been made by a girl or received as a gift from a girlfriend. Nozomi, flustered, denies having a girlfriend, which leads to her exclaiming loudly in the library. The deputy librarian sternly reminds them to remain quiet, adding to the awkwardness. Despite this, Kirishima continues to express her excitement and admiration for Nozomi's skills. Her enthusiasm surprises him, but he feels a sense of relief and gratitude for her positive reaction. The moment is interrupted when Tanioka appears, asking Nozomi for help with printing materials. The deputy librarian grows increasingly frustrated with the group's noise, reprimanding them again. Nozomi notes Kirishima's change in expression as Tanioka approaches. He jokes that he had anticipated Tanioka's arrival to seek assistance with their English assignment. Kirishima, after a moment of reluctance, agrees to help Tanioka, laughing softly. Nozomi finds himself captivated by her cheerful demeanor, feeling relieved to see her smile return after the tense events of the past days. His face turns crimson at the thought of his feelings for Kirishima-san, but he denies it. He then notes the ghost playfully teasing Tanioka in the background. Nozomi observes the scene with quiet amusement. Three friends sit together on the school roof sharing lunch. Kirishima, full of energy, excitedly announces that Tanioka's team has qualified for the prefecture basketball tournament. She gushes about their strength, and he confidently predicts their success at the national championship this winter. She excitedly promises to cheer for him at the event, which prompts Tanioka to inquire about her interest in extracurricular activities. She admits she's been approached by various clubs, but is still considering her options, mentioning athletics, tennis, and swimming clubs. Nozomi, imagining her in sports uniforms, grows visibly flustered. Tanioka compliments her athleticism, while Kirishima and Tanioka shift the conversation to Nozomi's extracurricular interests. He denies having any, but Tanioka claims to have heard otherwise, prompting Kirishima to join in pressing for details. Hesitant, Nozomi admits a past interest in the home economics department. Kirishima expresses delight upon learning of a home economics club and shares her love for cooking, suggesting she might join. Nozomi quickly dismisses the idea of joining himself, but Tanioka encourages them both to consider it. Nozomi reveals his reluctance, attributing it to shyness. She reassures him, and Tanioka insists he wouldn't have to face it alone. After school, Kirishima shows Nozomi that the Home Economics Club is open for tours and mentions their cooking sessions on Wednesdays. Reluctantly, he agrees to accompany her. As they approach the room, they hear a commotion. Inside, a young club member struggles with a pot of chocolate, which boils over and creates a mess. Kirishima swiftly intervenes, turning off the stove and checking on the girl. The girl explains her misunderstanding of the instructions to melt chocolate in hot water, leading to the disaster. Kirishima gently corrects her, explaining the proper technique. The club president arrives and enthusiastically welcomes Kirishima and Nozomi. Kirishima introduces herself as a new sophomore, while Nozomi awkwardly follows suit. The president, Kagakasumi, and the young member, Tendomashiro, encourage them to participate in making cupcakes rather than merely observing. The president highlights the club's welcoming atmosphere, which helps ease Nozomi's nerves. As they bake, she appears radiant in an apron, and Nozomi finds himself admiring her. Meanwhile, Kirishima assists Tendo, and the president commends Nozomi's skills as he beats the batter. Although he denies being skilled, her praise boosts his confidence. He finds himself enjoying the experience, something he hadn't expected. The president's curiosity about his hobbies leads to a discussion about his interest in handicrafts, which she appreciates. As they taste the batter, a sudden appearance of a spirit frightens Nozomi, causing him to spit batter onto Kirishima and Tendo. Embarrassed, Nozomi apologizes profusely, but both girls laugh off the mishap. The president provides tissues for cleaning, and Nozomi awkwardly offers his jersey when Kirishima mentions her uniform is soiled. She thanks him, but the offer is not needed. The cupcakes turn out well, and the president praises their efforts. She encourages them to visit or join the club, emphasizing its small membership and welcoming nature. As they leave, the president pulls Kirishima aside, taunting her about her connection with Nozomi and offering her support. Kirishima, flustered, responds modestly. Nozomi, overhearing but not comprehending, notices the spirit grinning at him ominously, leaving him unsettled.